When Owen Kessler stepped into the penthouse, his grandmother was already on the floor. The grocery bag slipped from his hand. Apples rolled across the marble. A carton of broth tipped over and spread slowly across the grout. For one sharp, terrifying second, the whole room lost shape. Then Grandmother Celine opened one eye. "Lie down," she whispered. Owen froze. Her voice was weak, urgent, perfectly clear. "Now," she breathed, "and don't move." Every instinct in him fought it. But Celine Kessler had survived 82 years, 2 widowed winters, a family full of polished opportunists, and the kind of money that teaches people to smile while calculating around your pulse. If she was telling him not to panic, then panic was exactly what someone wanted. So Owen lay down beside her, flat on his back, breathing shallow, eyes nearly closed. The apartment went still. Then came the sound of heels in the hallway, a pause, a breath, the soft click of the door opening wider. Bianca entered first, his wife. She was carrying her handbag and wearing concern so beautifully it would have fooled anyone who had not already run out of reasons to protect her with interpretation. "Oh my God," she whispered. But she didn't rush to Celine, didn't reach for a phone, didn't kneel. She looked at the old woman, then at Owen, then at the slim medical case in her hand. And in that instant, Owen understood something he would never be able to unknow. Bianca had not come to save his grandmother. She had come to finish what she thought had already begun. By the end of that night, Bianca would learn that the most dangerous people in a family are not always the loudest or coldest. Sometimes, they are simply the ones everyone mistakes for too gentle to prepare. But before I tell you how a quiet software engineer let his own wife walk straight into the trap she built, stay with me. Because this story is not really about inheritance. It is about the moment love stops being love and turns into arithmetic. For most of his marriage, Owen Kessler had been described in ways that sounded flattering until you listened closely enough to hear the dismissal hiding underneath. Steady, safe, reliable, a good husband, the kind of man who would never make life harder than it already was. Bianca used to say those things with real affection. In the beginning, she meant them. Back then, before her father began inserting himself into every financial conversation, before every family dinner started sounding like a negotiation dressed as concern, before ambition hardened into appetite, Bianca had loved Owen for the exact things her family later taught her to find. Embarrassing. He listened. He didn't dominate rooms. He fixed what was broken quietly and well. He made life feel less exhausting. That had once been enough. But the Holloways did not believe in enough. Gregory Holloway believed in leverage, in positioning, in owning the room before truth had time to sit down. To him, Owen was useful in the most dangerous way possible. Kind, capable, and too decent to imagine how ugly other people were willing to become. Then there was the penthouse. Grandmother Celine's penthouse sat above the river in the oldest part of the city, all antique mirrors, marble fireplaces, tall windows, and the kind of quiet wealth that no longer needs to advertise itself. It was not only a home, it was a hinge. Tied to it were trust layers, voting rights, and dormant control provisions linked to a family holding structure Gregory had been trying to consolidate for years. He called it practical. Owen knew it was hunger. At first, he explained everything away. Bianca asking more questions about medication schedules. Gregory suddenly taking interest in estate language. Repeated conversations about protecting Celine's legacy. Documents framed as routine. Concern delivered in polished tones. That is the cruel efficiency of betrayal inside a family. It rarely enters wearing obvious malice. It enters dressed as care. The moment Owen stopped explaining came 3 weeks earlier. He had gone downstairs late at night for water and heard Bianca's voice in the kitchen. Gregory was on speakerphone. "If she signs, we move fast," he said. "And if she doesn't?" Bianca asked. A pause. Then Gregory, calm as weather. "Then timing matters more than consent." Owen stopped walking. He couldn't see them from the dark hallway, but he could hear the shape of the room well enough. The wine glass in Bianca's hand. The low confidence in Gregory's voice. The silence after the sentence. Not shocked, not moral, just practical. "She's weaker this month," Bianca said, "and Owen still thinks this is about care." Gregory gave a small laugh. "He thinks whatever makes the house easier to live in." That line stayed with Owen longer than anything else. Not because it was the cruelest thing, because it was almost true. He had spent years making the house easier to live in, easier for Bianca, easier for the family, easier for people who had never once asked whether his calm came from peace or just practiced sacrifice. The next morning he installed cameras, not everywhere, only where truth liked to pass when people thought no one difficult was listening. The kitchen, the library, the hall outside Celine's room. The living room where Gregory preferred to stage family talks. A mirrored audio line ran silently through a private archive Owen built himself, separate from every household system Bianca thought she understood. What came back was worse than he expected. Not louder, colder. No screaming, no wild threats, no dramatic confessions, just the terrifying neatness of selfish people refining logistics. A planned medical incident, a timed collapse, a false emergency narrative, a transfer window, a signature attempt if possible, a fallback if not. Noah, wait, ensure no wrong name. Need Owen only. Continue carefully. Owen listened once, then twice. And what broke him was not only the plan, it was Bianca's tone. She didn't sound angry or desperate or cornered. She sounded efficient. That was the deepest betrayal of all. Not that she wanted the penthouse, not that she wanted the trust opened, but that she had started speaking about death the way she used to speak about calendar management, as if family had become scheduling. That night, Owen brought the recordings to Celine. He expected heartbreak, or denial, or maybe the brittle pride of an old woman refusing to look directly at danger, wearing her own family's face. Instead, she listened all the way through, set down her teacup, and said, "I wondered how far they'd go." Owen stared at her. "You knew?" Celine gave him a look only grandmothers and queens know how to give. "I knew they had begun loving the apartment more than the people inside it," she said. "That usually means the rest is only a matter of timing." That was the moment the story stopped being only about exposure. It became protection. Not just of assets, of truth, of the last decent shape left inside the word family. Together, they built the trap. Owen synced the camera feeds to his attorney and an elder abuse investigator. Celine worked with her physician to safely stage episodes of weakness, convincing enough to reassure Bianca that the window was opening. Owen pretended to grow more distracted, more tired, more overwhelmed. He even let Bianca catch him researching care facilities and emergency estate procedures. She mistook fear for blindness. That was her final mistake. Gregory grew bolder too. He started arriving with papers he called precautionary, temporary, simple, nothing to worry about. Bianca touched Owen's shoulder more often, asked if he was sleeping, told him he didn't have to carry everything alone. The tenderness in her voice would have been convincing if he hadn't already heard what she sounded like when compassion was no longer necessary. Because once love dies enough, even kindness starts sounding managerial. The plan itself was simple. Simple plans survive panic better than dramatic ones. Celine would stage a collapse. Owen would arrive at the expected time. If Bianca moved toward help, they would know some remnant of humanity still existed. If she moved toward completion, then the law, the cameras, and the truth would all be waiting. Which brings us back to the floor, to the spilled broth, to Celine motionless on the rug, to Owen beside her breathing shallow, to Bianca entering with perfectly arranged alarm. For 1 second she just stood there. Then her expression changed, not into grief, into focus. She set down her bag, checked the hallway, opened the case. That was all Owen needed. He sat up. Bianca gasped and stumbled back, the color draining from her face so quickly it almost looked unreal. At the same moment, the lights came up. Celine pushed herself upright, and from the corridor came 2 people Bianca had not invited into her version of the evening: Owen's attorney and an elder abuse investigator, already watching through the live feed. Bianca stared from one face to the next, still clutching the open case. Nolan. No, not Nolan. Must be Owen. Owen, it's not what it looks like. That line always comes too late. Because truth does not become ambiguous just because panic is eloquent. Owen stood slowly. "You came for the inheritance," he said. "I came for the truth." From the doorway, the investigator asked Bianca to step back and keep her hands visible. Gregory started calling before anyone even touched her phone, as if greed had developed its own nervous system. Owen let the call ring out. Then the attorney placed the documents on the table. Transfer attempts, trust pressure, audio transcripts, recorded plotting, authority revocations, protective restructuring already filed. Gregory would not be getting the penthouse. Bianca would not be inheriting leverage. And whatever remained of the Holloway's moral self-image would now have to survive in a room with records. Bianca looked at Owen as if he had become a stranger. Maybe he had. Or maybe he had simply stopped making himself easy to use. The legal fallout moved quickly after that. Gregory lost every argument that mattered. The trust was restructured under independent supervision. Bianca faced serious consequences that no amount of soft language could reframe as misunderstanding. And the penthouse remained where it had always been. No longer just an asset under siege, but the place where the last lie had finally run out of air. But Owen did not walk away feeling victorious. That would have made the ending too small. What he felt instead was grief shaped into clarity, because the worst part was never the property. It was realizing that Bianca had not betrayed him in anger. She had betrayed him in calculation. She had replaced love with arithmetic so gradually she likely no longer knew the difference herself. And maybe that is the most frightening thing about families built around control. They do not always fall apart when people start hating each other. Sometimes they fall apart when people start pricing each other correctly. The next morning, Celine poured tea with hands steadier than anyone would have guessed. Owen sat across from her in the same room where they had lain on the floor together and waited for the truth to reveal itself. After a long silence, she said, "Real family protects. Fake family calculates." He nodded. Because that was it. The whole wound and the whole lesson laid cleanly side by side. If this story stayed with you, leave a like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, what destroys a family faster in the end? Open cruelty, or the quiet moment love gets replaced by calculation? Some people don't betray you with hatred. They betray you by turning care into a ledger. I'll see you in the next story.